Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and welcome to Hangout number 44. Let me check to see who's in the room and ask if you can see and hear me. Oh, hi, Annie. Annie just showed up. Beth is here, and Lisa S. and Lisa Ann are here. Gretchen's here. Goodness gracious. Florence is here. Let's see who else is here. Molly's here. Did I just say that? Ann is here. Benny wants to be here, but he's playing football. So real life takes precedence over this show. But we're going to miss him. And Christine is here. And wait a minute, one more person was here. Beth, did I say hello to Beth? Okay, so that's who's here so far. So anyway, these are the hangouts where I talk about just varying topics, things in the news, cases people ask me about, but it's not really worth an entire, big case show. And I also talk about just different issues that are from different crimes that pertain to profiling and crime scene analysis. So that's what I do on the Hangouts. It's kind of a loosely done kind of thing, and everybody gets to join in. And Heidi's here. Hi, Heidi. And if you want to be here in the chat room, please do go below. Click on Patreon. I have a new method now. It's one level, $5 a month, 8 live shows. That includes 4 case shows. It includes 3 hangouts and a call-in. And who knows, sometimes a surprise. But if you don't want to join Patreon, you just want to come to my shows and see them later on, hey, all my shows are available, every single one of them, because I want you to learn about criminal profiling. So I'm not trying to keep it hidden. So just subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot. I'm a small channel, so I need the support because let me tell you, this is not an entirely profitable venture, so I need enough to keep the channel going. So subscribe, click the bell to get informed, check my playlist to see all the cases you've missed, and share in one of your true crime communities and bring more people to the show. Can you all hear me, by the way? Nobody has to, oh, there you go. Well, I think you might be exaggerating, Annie, but okay, you can hear and see my cute self. Oh, aren't you nice? I just want to say right before the show started, my sis, she's in an Indian restaurant right now, and she's like, what should I order? Because I've been to India. So she's like, what should I order? So I was giving her food advice. And I want to tell you a little something about my sis, which she just told me the other night. She said that she likes to listen to me before she goes to sleep. She loves the hangouts for that. She says she finds my voice calming, which I have no idea why, because I'm considered to have a harsh voice. So I'm like, what's wrong with you? But anyway, she says she likes to listen to the show, and it's like I'm with her there, and I'm talking, and then she falls asleep. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I put you to sleep. So anyway, I just want to let you know, sis, that today, for this hangout, I'm going to tell your deepest, darkest secret right now to the whole world. Are you awake? I'm the mean sis. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just kidding. Is she my older sister or younger? I have 2 sisters. They're both older than me. I'm the baby of the family. The problem child. Yes, the problem child. Okay, so now let's get to the show. All right. Anne had asked me, and I didn't put this on the list of what I was going to talk about. I forgot. But Anne had asked me to talk about the Danielle Redlick verdict. Okay. This is a woman from Winter Park, assuming that's Florida. Wow, right near where my sis lives. Okay, interesting. Anyway, the jurors just found her not guilty of the death of her husband, but she was found guilty of tampering with evidence. Now, this is just one of these things that makes me think that we do indeed need a professional juror system, because I'm like, how in the world did you come up with this verdict? So they let her off, and she burst into tears and thanked everybody. Thank you so much. You understand where I'm coming from. Okay, so what actually happened in this particular case? All right, so she's 48 years old, and her husband was 65. He used to be her stepfather. But after her mother died, I guess she hooked up with him. Maybe before her mother died, but hey, maybe not. Just maybe she waited till he died. Mom died, and then she was like, "Oh, he's available." Anyway, so she supposedly stabbed her husband in self-defense, and it's always interesting because self-defense is much easier for women to claim, obviously, than men. So women do claim this quite often. And the problem is, because a guy is bigger and a woman is, generally speaking, smaller, you do have that disparity of force and strength. So that can be a perfectly reasonable self-defense claim. So if a big guy comes at me and he's punching at me, I have the right to shoot him. Why? Because if he hits me with his punch, he could kill me in one punch. So I have the right to shoot him. Whereas maybe if he were with another dude and they're both big, that might not work out so well. But so she has a way to make this claim. Now, here's her claim. She said it was self-defense because he pinned her against a kitchen island, smothering her. And that's why she reached for a knife and stabbed him in the shoulder a bunch of times. Okay. A kitchen island is, generally speaking, a piece of granite or some other version of a hard stone. Even if somebody pushes your head onto that island, your nose is not, you can't smash your nose into it. It's not soft. If you actually pushed your head into the couch cushions, I might go with that because you can suffocate because the couch cushion comes up around your face. But you're on a hard surface. You might feel some pain, but I don't know how you can't breathe. If your head is sideways, if he's pushing your head down sideways, you've got the ability to breathe. So I find that very unlikely that she could not breathe. That she could have been scared, yes. That she could have actually felt some pain, yes. But that she couldn't breathe. Anyway, somehow on that kitchen, because she's on the island, I haven't done a deep dive into the case to understand where the knife was, but unless they were like in the middle of, she was chopping things and then he whacked her head onto the counter and she said, oh, look, I was just cutting a tomato. Why was there a knife available to her on the counter? But anyway, she says that's why she did it. However, she said that the reason this all occurred was that she told the police her husband cheated on her and the two separated, ultimately deciding to reconcile and move back together. She said that's when her husband found her flirty text messages with another man. Who's cheating on who? Okay. Anyway, then he was found stabbed to death a couple hours later. She admitted to stabbing her husband, saying she was scared and thought she was going to die and couldn't breathe. All right. Now, this is where it gets rather amusing. Apparently, she didn't bother to call 911 immediately. She called 911 the next morning and she tried to clean up the scene. And she claimed that he died of a heart attack, except for those stab wounds on him. And then later on, she said that he stabbed himself. And then she hid in the bathroom all night long because she was scared of him, even though he'd already stabbed himself with a knife. Okay. And then while the time was going on that she wasn't calling 911, apparently she was online looking for a date. Okay. So, yeah. So anyway, the jury said, "Oh, well, we get it. You may have disturbed the evidence and all that, so that was naughty. But I understand why you cleaned up the crime scene, didn't call 911, and were on a dating app. But we don't think you actually, stabbed him because you were mad at him. Maybe because he found out you were on a dating app. Yeah. So he got mad and you stabbed him. Oh no, that's not what happened. He put your head on the counter and you happened to find a convenient knife. You stabbed him and then you tried to cover up the whole thing." Oh my God, we need a professional jury system. We really do. That was an interesting case, and I thank you, Anne, for bringing that to me because I hadn't heard about it. What? I mean, just makes me laugh. So she's out, and yeah, okay. Well, stepdad, that's what you get for marrying your stepdaughter. But okay. You're welcome, Anne. That was, I almost forgot, because you had asked me and I'd said I'd do it. And then right before the show, I realized I hadn't put it on the list. And I'm like, no, I told Anne I'd do it. So, okay. So that was fascinating, actually. I didn't know how interesting that verdict was, but wow. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go on to the Gregory case. I had this somebody asked me, one of my subscribers asked me to do this case. And so, yes, subscribers, I do listen to you. I mean, my patrons, maybe they get first dibs, but I do see things come in when the subscribers put something in there and say, hey, could you look at this? I check it out and see whether it's something interesting. So last night I did watch the Netflix show, which is called, oh crap, what was it called? Damn it. Hold on a second. It's a simple one. Who Killed Little Gregory? Okay. So this case is a very old case from 1984 in France. All right. So you wonder, why is Netflix doing this now? Is it worth watching? And can it be solved? And why is it so interesting to people? Well, I have to say, when people talk about going down a rabbit hole, this is a case which I don't think you need to go down one of those stupid rabbit holes where suddenly satanic, groups are involved and, all kinds of completely unrelated stuff. But who did this crime is very hard to actually determine, because what a strange bunch of people are involved in this. And let me point out, first of all, that the Netflix show is not that much about solving the crime as it is about talking about how it all went down as far as the police work and the media. And it's so horrifying that, by the way, it gets boring after I think I made it through the third, and I think there's 5 or something of that. I couldn't do anymore because I was starting to find it dull. But anyway, the first few was very interesting because the system as it was working over there was not working. It was horrific, absolutely horrific. The methodology of working on this case, the detectives with the judge and the media, was like a massive circus that threw everything awry. And it's actually horrifying to watch. And that is not the way we should handle crimes, regardless of what country. So I'm not talking negative about France. I'm just saying that crimes should be handled in a very somber and judicial way, not in the media exploiting this and having these ghouls, these vultures. And throughout the show, they talk about this guy called the Raven, this because he writes these notes to the family. But man, the Raven is nothing compared to the darn vultures who are constantly after everybody in huge hordes. And it's just appalling. It's absolutely just as disrespectful and as disgusting as it can possibly be. And as one of the vultures says during the show, and somebody calls her out on it, is that she was perfectly happy to name somebody as a suspect, not because the person should be one, but because it would make a better story. And that is true for the media, and it appalls me. So I have a problem with that. Now, to the case itself, and I'm not going to do a separate show on this because I cannot actually properly analyze this. And one of the things I think is very important is to know when you cannot. And you cannot because you don't have enough of the details. You don't have enough of the being able to do proper interviews. And since most of it was in French, and it has not been translated in English, I can't figure it out. And it's so convoluted. It is so bizarre that I can't come up with a conclusion, but I can tell you how weird it is. So let me tell you about the case in general. All right. In 1984, a 4-year-old disappeared from the front yard of his home. His name was Gregory Villemin. And by the way, I apologize to all my French listeners because I'm going to butcher your language. Villemin. Okay. I'm trying, but I'm probably suck at it. All right. So that's Gregory Villemin. He was only 4 years old. He disappeared from the front yard of his home. Okay. Stop right there. That is the claim. Okay. We don't actually know that. The mother says that she had arrived home with Gregory after picking him up, after she finished her job, went into the house, put a little cap on him, told him to go outside and play. And there was like this kind of like a pile of gravel they had out front. They were building something. I don't know what they were doing. And he had a little shovel. She put a little hat on him, a little cap, and sent him out to play and was doing some laundry, went out to look 20 minutes later, and he was not there. And then she ran around trying to find him. Not saying she has anything to do with him going missing. But again, I like proper terminology. It wasn't proven he disappeared from the front lawn. or the front of the house. It just was that he disappeared. Okay. That's all we know. He disappeared. He was with, he was known to be alive when the mother picked him up. And then when she went home, then after they were home for a short period of time, then he was not there. That's all we can say. Not there. Okay. So, all right. So he disappeared from his home. I'd say not from the front yard, from the home, just to be fair. All right. In a small village called, I had this down. Vosges. I went to YouTube and looked up, how do you pronounce Vosges? No, Vosges. Vosges. I think it was Vosges. Okay, a small place in France. Okay, and then that night, his body was found in the nearby Villemin River. He was believed to have been thrown in alive. Okay, here's another big problem with the whole story, is that there seems to be, I can't get the autopsy, and there seems to be some issue was he alive when he went into the river, or wasn't he alive when he went into the river? I don't know. And there's also some point about that there weren't the proper microbes or whatever in his system that showed he drowned in a river. In other words, the stuff that he would have sucked in, and maybe he drowned in a bathtub, which is why they could accuse at some point the mother of possibly killing him. So it's all very murky. And so that's why I cannot properly analyze the case. But all right. So then what happened to them exactly? All right. So let me show you a couple pictures so you can get a feel for this case and how bizarre it really is. So here we have the little boy. This is Gregory. He's cute. He's 4 years old. He's adorable. These are his parents. And as far as we know, they were absolutely loving parents. They adored him. There's nothing negative about them as parents at all. They seem to have a great relationship, and they seem to love their child. Now, the problem is they come from this family. All right, so this family, this is where things get really bizarre. The whole raven thing comes down to, or some people, they would say the crow, depending on how you want to interpret the French word for the bird. This family apparently has a whole bunch of intrigue in it. And, you're looking at what is not they're not big city people. They're kind of, I don't know, working class people in small area. And yet there's all kinds of intrigue on like who slept with whom and who had illegitimate children. And like from one of these shows, it says, here in Chantal, Leon's incestuous daughter. I don't know if the daughter was incestuous. This might be a bad interpretation in English. I would say Leon have been incestuous with somebody. Wait a minute. Incestuous daughter with his daughter. Okay. So here's a claim that Leon had, I guess, sex with his daughter and had an incest and had a child of that incest. So I have no idea if any of this is true. But what I'm pointing out is, oh my God, there's a whole bunch of things going on between this family. This is not like everybody loves each other and everything is hunky-dory. What we have is a whole bunch of people who have really weird things going on. And because of that, what's happened over the years is, for some reason, they're getting these phone calls from a person they call the Raven in the show. And the phone calls are saying, like, I know the secret. I know what you did, that kind of thing. And that person is calling all kinds of people in the family. And you really wonder why they don't seem to know who this person is who hates them so much. Obviously, someone in the family who isn't doing so well. But that goes on. And then it turns into letters. Letters are sent. So they've got this handwriting samples of things like that. Just horrific things against the family. And then eventually against this couple, because supposedly the father of Gregory was more successful than other people in the family. And some said he was very arrogant about it, and that he also broke the union. He wouldn't join the union, and he got his job because he didn't join the union. And so he's like this snotty guy who some of the family feels like he thinks he's better than, and somebody keeps calling him boss. And hey, boss, I'm going to get you. And eventually, hey, boss, I'm going to kill your kid. So on the day his child disappeared, somebody also sent a letter that said, basically, I've killed your kid, and now you're going to suffer the worst pain ever. Too bad, So you have to watch the whole show to get the entire picture of this. So then you have this problem. So it's clear it's not a stranger who kidnapped this kid. Or so you got a couple choices. The mother was the last person seen with him. So yes, she could be the person who did something to her child and then tried to cover it up, perhaps by blaming it on the Raven, because nobody knew who that was. And the Raven had said he was going to kill the kid. So, hey, I can do it. Maybe I accidentally drowned my kid. Therefore, I can blame it on the Raven. Send a letter and then run down the road and dump him in the river. Make it look like, he was tied up. His hands and feet were tied and his little hat was over his head. Maybe it looked like somebody else did it. Possible. But then there was the Raven. Somebody had it out for this family, and there's no question about it. So what happened was this guy came along. This is the judge in the case. And my God, when you watch this show, this is a guy who should never be in front of a camera. He's a smirky little, arrogant, condescending horror of a judge who essentially gives out information you should never give out, and absolutely should have been, I don't know if they have disbarment in France, but he shouldn't have been a judge. But apparently he did so badly on this case, he eventually killed himself. So anyway, he put a plastic bag over his head. So another weird part about this whole case. So anyway, here's the main guy who was accused of this crime. Now let me get this straight of who this is. Okay, so this is, okay, hold on a second. This guy is Bernard LaRoche. He is a cousin of the father. Okay, evidence came against him from a handwriting analysis of one of the anonymous letters. So somebody decided that it matched. And this is him with his wife, and he has this one child. And the claim is that this one child was, while Gregory was born and he was like the perfect child, this child had developmental problems and other issues. And so he was the not so perfect child. And Bernard had the not so perfect job. And so he had issues. He used to be buddies with the dad, but now he's like on the outs with him. And I guess the other guy got everything and he got what he got. So what they said was that there was some suspicion that, let me see, where's this girl at? Okay, so anyway, this is his sister-in-law. Okay, so she was a witness against him. She was the, okay, this whole thing is there's so many people in here, I'm not going to get it straight. But anyway, Bernard, that's his wife behind him, and that's his sister-in-law. She's like 15 or something. How old? 15. And she claims that she was with him that day, and that they went to Gregory's house, and he was playing outside, and Bernard went up to him and said, hey, come with us, took him, put him in the car. They drove away, and then Bernard got out of the car with Gregory, went away for a little while, came back without the kid. That's what she says. Okay, so anyway, this goes on, and they apparently somewhere along the way, the defense lawyers and the judge are getting together, and Bernard is eventually released from prison, which really pissed off the father. And so while he was out of prison, the father said he believed that this was a man who killed his child, and so he went and shot him. So he's dead. So now that he's dead, the father ends up in prison. He only got like 5 years, and he got out in 2, and his wife was pregnant. So meanwhile, while he was in prison, his wife got accused of being the killer, because they said now her handwriting matched the group, and so here she is with the child. And now they're saying her handwriting matched. And so this went on for a while, and then they finally gave up on that concept. So now, years later, now they've got an aunt that matches the their handwriting on the letters. You see where this goes? Like everywhere. I will put together. I will look. There's a hold on a second. There's a show. I'm going to link it below. It's on YouTube, and it's done by a French gentleman. It is subtitled, and I think quite nicely. And he goes through the whole process of Bernard on the day that Bernard said he didn't do it, and he takes you through all the villages. I mean, the towns. Takes you on a video down the roads. It's quite cool, actually, really quite cool. I'm going to link that. He believes Bernard is guilty. And he goes through why Bernard is guilty. And I can't say Bernard is or isn't, because I cannot verify any of this information. Clearly, it is a family member. There's no way that's not a family member. It would have to be the mother, because she's the last one with the child, or it has to be that vengeful Raven person who was looking for an opportunity to grab the child. And one of the things this guy points out, which I think is a good thing to point out, is why would he take this his sister-in-law, this 15-year-old, with him if he is going to kidnap a child, kill him? Why would he do that? And that is an interesting question, because personally, if I'm going to kidnap a kid, what I'm going to do is sneak around until I have an opportunity, grab the kid when nobody's looking and I have no witnesses, and kill the kid. He believes he took the sister-in-law because she would give him an alibi. And she eventually, what happened was she told the police she was with him when the child went missing. Then she recanted on that. And she said that the police forced her into this. Some believe that when the family found out she had ratted out Bernard, that they came after her and said, "Hey, you better change that story up, or you're out of this family." And so she changed the story. Then the question could be, did she have a thing going with Bernard? Was she like his little cohort in certain weird things? Was she a weirdo? I don't know. But I wouldn't take her along with me unless I could be assured that she wouldn't rat me out. So unless she was like in on it, I just don't see why he would do that. I think that's a little weird. Then the guy also comes up with the concept that the child wasn't put straight into the water. In other words, he wasn't driven to the water and put in. He was put somewhere else in like the forest. And then later that night, he went back and moved the child to the water to confuse the investigators. That I don't find makes any sense either. Because usually when you're doing this, I mean, leaving him in the forest would be good enough. What would be the point of putting him in the water afterwards and going back out and having to move the body to the water to confuse the investigators? In what way? I mean, I don't know that it would confuse them in a way that was useful. So I find the whole story that I don't buy either. So the reason I won't come to a conclusion on this is because I simply cannot. There's just not enough evidence to go any place except to say this is not a stranger homicide. I can guarantee that. This family is, the whole relative thing is so messed up. There's so much intrigue going on. It's bizarre. I've never seen it's creepy. I mean, it's like everybody's got something going on, and there's all these phone calls, and they've got them recorded, and they've got the letters, and it's like, what in the heck is wrong with this family that all this is going on? And yet there's a lot of protection going on too. Like, people don't want to admit things, maybe because they're not pleasant to admit. So there's a lot of that going on. So it's hard to tell in the long run who's responsible for what happened to Gregory. Since all the threats were there, yes, if somebody was watching, and it's a little hard to watch because the house is kind of isolated in the sense that you'd be driving down the road, and this is what the guy brings out in his video. He has all these people witnessing when this green car goes by. That's what Bernard was driving. So here comes the green car. There goes the green car. So there's a lot of nosy people, and they're out in their garden. They're out working on a farm. They're looking through the window, and there's not that much traffic. So hey, that's Bernard, and that's Bernard with his sister-in-law, that kind of thing. So it was during the daytime too. So it's kind of a really hard time to do this kind of thing. So it seems odd to me. So I would think, if I were somebody who was stalking and looking for an opportunity, yes, a child outside might be that opportunity. But I also wouldn't know if his mother was looking outside. So because it was quite close to the house. Now, perhaps he wasn't actually close. They said he was playing outside in that little rock pile. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he actually walked away from the house, and that was the opportunity. But it's really hard to know because I can't get to the proper interviews to actually hear what everybody had to say, to actually look at the timing of everything and do all that. So you come up with the two possibilities. Yes, somebody in the family, no question, has had it out for this father and mom and poor little Gregory, or the mother did something to him and then tried to cover it up with this thing. But it would have happened so quickly that I find it hard to buy the mother thing, because she would literally have to come home, kill him accidentally. She was already looking for him like within 20 or 30 minutes. She was running around, going to the nanny's house, which is right down the street. And then she was going in circles, and she called the police right away. So there wasn't really much time for her to say, oh, look, I've accidentally drowned my son in the bathtub, or I purposely drowned my son in the bathtub, and let me now tie him up and make it look like a murder, and let me drive over and dump him in the river, and then I'll come back and then look for him. The time frame is really limited, and there was no evidence that she ever had any issues before. So I tend not to think that's true. I do tend to think he was kidnapped and by a family member. Is Bernard the top suspect? Yes, he is. So do I think maybe he had a little something going on with the stepsister that made her look up to him and want to please him, like some concerning teenagers? Yeah, possibly. And maybe that she did go along with it because she was like his honey, I don't know. Can't say. That's as far as I can go with that. I can't go further than that. So, but that is what I think. So, yeah. So anyway, let me check on your comments while I'm running through this. The bizarre. It is bizarre. The handwriting controversy reminds me of Jean Bonnet. I don't consider this a real science. The Gregory case should have been solvable at the time, as there were so few suspects. You would think the handwriting thing. Handwriting is something you can look at because people do have ways of handwriting which are unique. But the fact that now they've come up with 3 different people who wrote these letters, this is a little suspicious. That doesn't seem to be too nonsense, make any sense. Let's see. I have not. Let's see what I'm saying. Okay. Yes, some people are talking about the other ones. The Kitty, this particular one, famous story. Yes, I might get to that one on Kitty. Also, you're saying a female PO goes undercover. I don't know. I'll have to check that one. I don't love a lot of stuff that Netflix does, so I'm not too thrilled. Did you watch enough to see that the first magistrate killed himself? Yes. That was the judge. You're talking about the judge. Yes. I personally couldn't stand the guy. I thought the guy shouldn't be a judge. I think that he did a lot of squirrely things. I think he was a terrible, terrible investigator. And I don't think the judge should be investigating, which seems to be kind of how it works. I don't get it. So, I don't have a problem with judges being a jury, like a 3-judge system. But I have a problem with the judges getting involved with the investigation. And that seems to be what is true here. So I don't know that the stress killed him. He had a massive ego. He was courting the media like you wouldn't believe. And I thought he was, it was inappropriate. All his behavior was inappropriate. And but again, we're seeing this through a lens of Netflix. It's another media outlet. So I don't know. That's why I'm not going to do a whole show on it. I just wanted to point out how complicated this is, how confusing it was. All I can say is it wasn't a stranger homicide. And it was a big fat mess. That's what I can say. Lisa says, thank you for tackling this massive Gregory confusion. And it's good to see you have some insights into it. I understand why you can't come to a firm conclusion. I thought mother cover-up was unlikely. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it was her. I don't see evidence that it was her. And yeah, I say Bernard is a very, very good suspect. I just can't prove it. But he definitely, the link below I'm going to put talks about the history of the family and talks about Bernard's history. Bernard had a lot of issues. Let me put it that way. He had serious issues with the family. Okay. And that, to have that kind of rage toward the family, you had to have been slighted in some way where you feel like you were not as important as other people, like your cousin, who is like Mr. Golden Boy and his Golden Boy child, So yeah, very interesting. Interesting case. I said I can't go further with it, but I thought I'd do it here so that I wouldn't ignore it because it is fascinating. Okay, let me go to the next thing I want to talk about. And I want to talk about CCTV and video surveillance. And I was encouraged to, I want to point out, let's see what Lisa has to say here. It was such a huge case in France. Yes, it was massive. And for good reason. I mean, as the media said, this was like catnip, you know what I mean, to the viewers. And therefore, there was so much bizarre stuff going on. You couldn't look away. It's like a really bad train wreck. It really was. But I want to talk about CCTV and video surveillance. I'm going to do 2 cases on this. And the second case, I want to talk about all the things that get you caught. Okay. But the first case, I just want to talk about when you think you know what happened. This is where I think we have to have a little bit of humility, maybe a lot of humility, even as a profiler. I'm not always right. And I have said, I think this. And then later on gone, can I take that video off my channel? can I stop the video from being out there anyplace else? Because it's embarrassing, because I screwed that one up. I really thought something else happened. Not a lot, not saying a lot, but I'm just saying I'm not infallible. Okay, so sometimes what happens is you have a case that's so off the charts weird that is why you get it wrong. Okay, so this particular case, it's on the show See No Evil, which I'm actually approving of, and I'm very, very careful with my approvals of shows. And so See No Evil is cool because it's showing what the camera sees, and it takes you through the entire cases and shows you how the camera catches so much of what actually happened. So it's really interesting, truly interesting. I think every detective and every profiler and criminal justice person should watch this. So I'm okay with it. Now, sometimes having done these shows, I detective for I think 4 seasons, and I know sometimes in order to tell the story and sometimes not go places, they will cut stuff out that they shouldn't, in my opinion, or they'll ask me to talk about something and I'm going, hey, I'm going to say this. And they're like, oh yeah, don't say that. So I know it's still manipulated and edited, but this is a good show. And I think it's worth paying attention to. Okay. So, all right, let me go to this first case. This is the case. Let me find it. Okay. So this is a show. It's called See No Evil. It's I'm paying for it on Amazon Prime. Okay. So it's not a freebie. Unfortunately, it is not a freebie. What the heck is that? Hold on a second. I'm trying to look at my, those little teeny shots I've got. I'm trying to figure out what the heck I'm looking at. What in the world is that? Oh, no, that's not even supposed to be there. Okay, what happened? Hold on a second. Oh, we're not having this problem again, are we? Hold on a sec. It's gone missing. Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to do what is called... I screwed up, so I'm going to try to grab this this photo, which I want to show you. And apparently I did not make it where it's supposed to make it to. Where is it? Okay, here we go. Why isn't that there? The life of life. YouTube. Okay, here it is. Okay, this is the family. This is called they call this one the Murder Mansion Cam. That's what they're calling this. It's actually funny because they're calling it the Murder Mansion Cam, but this Murder Mansion actually had 16 cameras in it. 16 cameras, which is amazing because almost nobody has that kind of video surveillance in their own home. They did. All right. These are the 2009 murders of Byrd and Melanie Billings, and they had 9 children in the house at the time the murders went down. Okay, how weird is that? Okay, none of the children were killed, so that's the good news. So YouTube, do not demonetize me. None of the children met a bad end. All right, they adopted tons of children. There was kind of a fascinating family. Okay, let me read you about them. All right, this occurred on July 9th, 2009 in Pensacola, Florida. He was 66. His wife, Melanie, is 43. They were found shot to death. All right. Now, let me tell you about these 2 people. Billings had divorced his second wife in 1993, and 4 months later, he married his third wife. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. Melanie Billings had 2 biological children from previous relationships, Ashley and Nicole. And then Melanie, she was, okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then he also had 2 biological children, not with her. Okay, then they had a total of 16 children altogether, including each other's stepchildren and adoptive children. One source said 13 of the children were adopted. Before the couple's murder, 3 of their adopted children, many of whom had special needs, had died. They actually took in special needs kids. It was quite an amazing family. They were loved. They were loved for what they did for these children in the community. And they took in children with Down syndrome and other kinds of problems and loved those children. And they had an amazing home. They really did. However, at the time of the death, Melanie Billings owned a used car lot, and Byrd Billings had a company called Worldco Financial Services. Byrd Billings was also a used car dealer and a former strip club owner. I did not know that. Okay, then. In other words, he had some people around him which were probably less than stellar human beings. And this is important when you're doing an investigation. You're always like, well, who have they pissed off? Who have, maybe somebody owes this guy money, and then they're going to get back at him. So there's all kinds of possibilities. All right. So when this crime went down, what they had, the two parents were shot in their bedroom, and just boom, 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 shot. Okay. Now, the first person they brought in was, they had I guess one of the teenage, I don't know if he was teenage, but I'm going to say maybe 20s, son who was living on the property in another house or something, whatever. And they brought him in, and he was like really sketchy. And they were like, oh man, maybe just, one of those kids, how kids kill off their parents, maybe he had issues. And he kind of giggled and did things which made the investigators go, it could be this guy. Then they looked into some of the people that the man had dealt with, and they were sketchy too. So they had these sketchy people around, and so they're thinking, oh my God, who got back at him or whatever. And what you have in your mind right now, if you don't know this case, and if you do know this case, don't say anything, but I want to just ask you right now, how do you envision this case? So the kids weren't shot. The parents are shot, boom, boom. And that's it. What do you think happened? Does anybody have an idea? Can you imagine in your head? Can you see how it went down? That's what I'm curious about. Because I had something in my head of how I thought it went down. What do you think? Does anybody have a thought on that? Who came in the house? How did they get in the house? What was their reason for being in the house? What was the reason for shooting the parents of these, how many children? 9 children in the house, and not killing any of the kids? What would you kind of think just offhand? Okay, that's an interesting point. Revenge. Okay, somebody's pissed off at one of the parents, or both of the parents, and it's a revenge thing. They go bang bang. They don't take care of you. They didn't hurt the children because they're only after the parents. Perfectly reasonable. So, how many people do you think were involved in this, Lisa? 1, 2? What do you think? They shot each other. Too many diapers. These actually were people that were, I just did a whole thing on, another case, the Hannah Overton case, where she took in a foster child and things didn't end well. He ended up dying. And I talked about the stress of taking in children, and how it isn't that easy. Apparently, these people have been doing an amazing job for years. So as much as I can relate to that, apparently that wasn't it. There were no weapons found where the parents were deceased in the bedroom. Okay. Anybody else got a thought who hasn't seen this? Anybody? Nobody's taking a gander at this. Okay. So they got this kid who's like questionable, right? And you could think, maybe that teenage kid wanted to get rid of his parents because he was like pissed off at them bringing in a bunch of children. A lover of one parent kills the parent. Okay. Considering the strip joint thing, may be true, but so you think, okay, maybe some guy came in. Well, why would he kill both of them? If he's a lover, why wouldn't he just get rid of the one that's in the way? I don't know that would. I don't think that makes sense. I think you would still have one of them left over, to go on with the person who was saved. But who's going to be a lover of somebody in there when they got 9 kids they got to deal with? Probably not. So apparently at this stage too, there was nothing about either one of them cheating on each other or anything. They were just these great parents, work hard raising these kids, and the community thought the world of them as far as their handling of the children, all the children they took in and raised and had such good hearts for. So, okay, I think you're all giving up. So a loan shark. Okay, all right, a loan shark. See, somebody didn't pay up. Okay, that's not a bad thought, because sometimes that's it. We'll come in. Now there is a problem with that in the sense that loan sharks don't usually kill you, because then you don't get any of the money. They usually beat the crap out of you so you can get the money. But yeah, you could look at that possibility. So, how do you care for so many kids need dollars? They were wealthy. Okay, they were very wealthy, and this becomes an issue. But first, I'm going to show you the video, the still shots from the police camera. So what happened is they had 16 cameras in the house. It's like amazing. So if you want to just be sure you catch your killer, put 16 cameras in there. So they covered everything, and apparently whoever planned this did not understand that there were all these cameras, or maybe they didn't care, because look at these photos. This is just, wait a minute, Anne said something before I go. Okay, you're just on a roll. Neighbor couldn't stand the kids. Well, then the kids wouldn't still be there, because now, well, I guess if we get rid of the parents, somebody's got to take those kids away. So you got a point there. All right, so look at this picture. This is a video of the front of the house. Okay, let me find it. See if I didn't screw this up, because apparently I'm screwing this up. Is this it? No. Why is this in the wrong place? Everything's in the wrong place. It's really weird. Oh, here we go. Okay, never mind. Sorry. Here it is. Oh, this is the beginning of the murder. A van pulls up and 3 guys get out with assault weapons, dressed all in black like a military operation. 3 of them. And there's still a driver in the vehicle. That's 4 people. Check this out. They come in the front door. From the back side is another vehicle. See that little vehicle over there in the trees? There's another driver, and 2 guys jump out of that vehicle to enter the house. So we have 5 guys on the ground in military garb with assault weapons, and 2 drivers of 2 separate vehicles. Did you see that coming? You're like, what? What in the world? I mean, that is bizarre. It threw everybody. So no, not a murder-suicide, and it was definitely not a murder-suicide, because no, the weapons weren't there. Assassination scheme, but why? Drug-related? Not at all. Parents were not drug users, not drug dealers. See, this is where. So when the police saw the video, they're like, they never thought they would see this. I wouldn't have thought. I'm thinking there'll be one sneaky little dude coming in the house. Maybe 2, some 2 teenagers coming in or something, but not an entire assault team. What the hell? Well, here's what turns out happens. The man, what's his name again? Byrd Billings, apparently dealt with a lot of money. So the daughter came in, and they brought her into the bedroom and asked her, is anything missing? And she said, the family safe is missing, which has papers and jewelry and stuff in it. And his briefcase is missing. And he often brings home $100,000. He has a cash kind of business. Brings home $100,000 in that briefcase. It's not there. So what they eventually found out when they did more video surveillance, they were able to track the, you're going to have to watch the show. I'll link the show below. But they were able to track the vehicle to stores, and they finally figured out who it was. And it was a guy who'd been in their house doing, I think, some kind of work on their house, and had noted his behaviors and noted that he had money. And he set this whole thing up as a big operation where they would split it. He said there are millions. And so you got this whole operation. So they would split up all the money. It's kind of something you would think you would see in a Hollywood movie, but it wasn't. So yeah. No, they don't. It wasn't any of the older kids. No, it wasn't. Actually, it wasn't anybody who didn't owe them money. None of this was true. It wasn't a murder for hire. This is fascinating. But this was simply a guy who noted they had money and came in to get the money with a team. And it's very unusual. And it's so unusual. Luckily, if they hadn't had the video, which is why I point this out, you would never, ever think this. You would think that son is kind of, something about that son I don't like. Maybe it's him. Maybe it's something against his parents. But when you see an assault with an operation like that with 7 people involved, and they can rule out, the kids. And then they figured out how this all came about. But without that video, they would never have a clue. And then they were able to use other videos, and you'll see that in the show of how they started linking the vehicles together. and who did it. It's absolutely fascinating. It's a really interesting show. So, but I just want to point out, if I had looked at that as a profiler, I would have been wrong. And I would have come up later and went, can Fox or CNN just eliminate that? What I said at that show? Because it's one of those things that's an anomaly. And so video camera has wonderful ability to get rid of, to bring forth the anomalies with absolute truth. And they point that out. This is a witness. It's an eyewitness who doesn't lie. So you can actually see it going down. Yeah, this is very, very true. I do that. Lisa says, you often warn us about people coming in, having access to the house. Yeah, I mean, it's a real weird problem because money related. Yeah. When you have handymen come in, or people coming in to paint, people coming in to do whatever, they have access to seeing a lot of what's in your house. They can see whether you have things there that are worth taking. They can see whether there's a woman they want to rape. They can unlock a bathroom window and leave the house and come back through that unlocked window later and then relock it. And then nobody realizes that's how it happened. So when people come to work at your house, you got to be careful. And of course, the problem always is most of them are great people. But because it's an easy job to get, you can get somebody who is questionable. And my gutter guy, my gutters. He was a murderer. He'd been in a federal penitentiary for over 10 years for murder, but he had a gutter service. I did run him, so I knew who he was, and he could fake me out. But a lot of people would have hired him and had no clue the dude was a murdering psychopath. You got to be careful about that guy hanging around your house. You do. So anybody gets into your house and has an opportunity to see what you do and do not have. One of the problems I think Byrd had, what's his name? Byrd Billings. He was too flagrant with his handling of large quantities of cash. Now, I won't get into why he might not have why he had such high quantities of cash and why he handled his business the way he did. I'm not getting into that. But theoretically, when you're carrying a large amount of money around with you, first of all, do you need to do that? And is there a safer way to do this? And then if this is so, you better be armed, because apparently when they got into his home, well, maybe that's why they had so many people, because they figured this dude's carrying $100,000 in cash in a briefcase. That dude should be armed. And maybe he would have been, but when you have five guys in, completely decked out in ninja outfits and large weaponry, you can't fight five people. You lose. So, you got to be very careful what you let out in public as far as what you have in your home, and then your patterns of behavior. So it's really important just to understand that. But the 16 videos that they had and the other videos in the stores and in parking lots that they're able to then link everything together, that's how they caught the guys. Thank God. All right, now I want to go on to the next one, which is a Tequila Suter story. And this Tequila Suter story is where I want to point out how you get caught. Okay, this is Tequila. Where's Tequila? Let's see if I can find her. Oh, here's Tequila Suter. All right, Tequila Suter. Let me find her here. Tequila Suter. She was stabbed to death in her home in Lackawanna, a suburb of Buffalo, New York, in 2015. On Sunday, she failed to turn up at church, which caused her family and friends to become concerned. Relatives found her bloody remains lying on the floor of her apartment. She had been stabbed a shocking 39 times. The police focused their attentions on Damoni Hall, a man they knew Tequila had been dating. He had admitted to seeing her at her home the day before she was murdered, but insisted he had nothing to do with the crime. Okay, so, all right. So there's a number of ways that you get convicted. One is physical evidence. Another is video surveillance, CCTV. That is that witness that will see what you're doing. The third one is a cell phone triangulation to prove where a cell phone is and isn't. And the fourth one is stupidity. And luckily, a lot of criminals are incredibly stupid. Now, they think they're being smart and being really clever, but they're actually quite stupid. So this is a really great case to show how his stupidity had those other three things do him in. All right. So anyway, she was murdered in this house. And let me tell you how this all sort of, why they started looking at Damoni. Before her murder, right before her murder, she had called the police because somebody had used her debit card to take money out of her account. And she was trying to find out who could do this. Who do you think, Tequila? How about the dude you're hanging with? All right. Now, there's people say, well, how did he know her PIN code? Okay, here's how it works. So girlfriends, boyfriends, okay, pay attention to this. Okay, so you're driving. You put the card in. You start going ding, 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 ding. That person is sitting there going, okay, what is it? 3526. And he remembers that, and now he's got your code. Okay, that's one way. All right. Another way. Let's see. What's another? Oh, yeah. Here's another way. He's driving and she wants to get some money out. So she says, pull into my bank. She hands him the card, says, put it in there. He puts it in there and she tells him, it's 3526. So she actually gives him the PIN code. And before I say terrible things about that, I have done that too. I've done it with my son. So one of my sons, because we were like traveling and I had to get some money. So he was driving. So I had him pull in. I told him my PIN code. So if my money goes missing, honey, I know it's you. But that is often how these things happen because we don't necessarily keep those PIN codes super secret. So apparently she had money taken out. And who was close to her that would know her PIN code? Damoni, right? So, all right. So anyway, he supposedly, this was some of his claims now, that he had been at her house. I remember that I always point out too, when you break up with somebody, that's when the danger zone comes in. And also when you accuse them of things. Later on, the guy claims that she was jealous of something, or he was jealous of something. It was just, went crazy. But I'm going to say she confronted him. She figured out that he took her money. Now, he's supposedly a nice church boy, but I point out this all the time, too. A lot of times guys go to church to meet the nice church girl. And they're the psychopath who finds that the church girl is very giving. And she was, according to everybody, she was really sweet. Tequila was extremely sweet, just a good-hearted person. And she probably fell for this guy who she met in church. And then she found out he was stealing from her, confronted him, and he did not want that to happen. He did not want her to report him. And so something went down. Of course, that's not what he says happened, but okay. So what he said was, they had an argument. And so he packed up some of his stuff and he said, I'm taking off. I'll come back tomorrow to get the rest of my stuff. Okay. Now, what he says here is very, very interesting. He says to the police, all right, so is it here? Yeah. And as I was leaving, she had her phone up to her left side. Is she left-handed? First of all, I want to know if that's true, but okay. See, he's telling them she had her phone. The last thing he saw, and this is really important because this is where you start being stupid. So he makes this claim that he saw her with the phone, and it's important for him to say she had her phone, right? Because later on that evening, there were texts that came from that phone to him saying, hey, I can't get back together because blah, blah, blah. And supposedly she also put something on Facebook. So you see, she had to have her phone, right? So he says she had her phone, except when they found her body, there was no phone, right? There was no phone in that house at all. So she what happened to it? So if she was texting him and she was still alive, you see, then he would not be guilty. And then I guess somebody, when they did kill her, took her phone. So she must have been killed. See, it gets a little murky here. Anyway, so now how does this all work out with the CCTV? Well, they asked him exactly, what did you do? What were all your movements? And he gave all his movements. So he says, I went to this store. So they went to the store and they see him in the store because they got CCTV there. And there he is with his plastic bag of stuff. Now he's got a backpack, which is supposedly containing some of the clothes he took with him as he gave, they broke up, right? But now he's got this little bag of stuff. What's in the bag? Okay. Now, the next thing he says is he went on a bus. So you see him and now he's at the bus station. He's entering the bus station. Now he's on the bus. There you see him. Okay, he's looking in the bag. Like, what's in the bag? Okay, we don't know what's in the bag at this point, but we know what his movements are. He's got the bag. The next thing that happens is he gets off the bus and he goes to a friend's house, okay? And he says, I stayed with my friend overnight, okay? Not a girlfriend, but a friend, and they stayed overnight. And there was a very short walk from the bus station to the friend's house. So the police, because he's giving the details of where he is. Now, what he thinks he's doing is he's showing how innocent he is because he's willing to tell the police exactly what he did. You see, I did all these things, so I didn't have anything to do with the murder. As a matter of fact, after I left her home, I got texts from her. We texted back and forth. So I wasn't even there when it happened. She was home with her phone and I'm, off doing my stuff. So anyway, he had a black phone. Okay. And she had a white phone, white outside. Right. And so now they go talk to the woman, the friend's house he stayed at. And she said he had a black rucksack. And they asked her, and a white plastic bag. And she says, no. Well, actually, she said no. First of all, she said, no, he didn't have the white plastic bag. Now, it was a short walk from the bus to her house. Where did the white plastic bag go? And why would you lose the white plastic bag if you had stuff you liked in that white plastic bag? Or is it the stuff in the bag you want to make sure is never found? So now they had an area where they knew the white bag went missing because they had him on the bus, getting off the bus with the bag, showing up at the friend's house a block away without the bag. So that was great video proof that something happened to that bag in that real small area. All right. Then they asked her about, did he have a phone with him? And she goes, he had two phones, actually. This is where it gets so funny. They're like, what? And so she says, wait a minute, what's next one? Two phones. Yeah. Okay. So then she says, okay. She says, yeah, he had two phones, actually, a black phone and a white phone. Whose phone could that be? All right. So they go back and they look at go back and look at that bus video again, and they see him pull out, what's he got in his hand? He's got what looks like a white phone in his hand. So at this point, essentially what he's doing is texting on her phone to his phone. You see, he's so smart, right? He's going to prove that, you see, she's still texting me at that time. Does he know a thing about cell phone towers? Because this is so then the police tell him this, which I think is just very humorous. So, okay. So first they ask him where he got that white phone. And he goes, I found it. It was this Android I found just on the ground, and he threw it away because it was somebody else's. So he says, so then he says, well, but your girlfriend's phone, somebody's on that phone and it's in this particular area, because dude, that's the area you were in. So why is her phone triangulating to a cell tower where you are? In other words, her phone should still be at the apartment, or if somebody stole the phone, what are they doing? They just happen to be following you around with the phone. So the guy, and then they go look for they go through the trash cans in the area. And let's see, I have a couple more things here from there. She says, because she's already dead, so she couldn't have been doing it. Then they go look through the trash cans and they come up with a white trash bag and they come up with the phone. So basically they got all the evidence. There's her clothing with blood on it. His DNA is on some of the clothing because he tried to clean up the scene. He put everything in the bag. They got the phone. They got the videotape, just nailing him all along the way. And it's like, he got all those four things. The physical evidence, they got the video surveillance evidence, they got the their cell phone evidence of the, where the cell phone was, and they got his stupidity, which led them to all these other things. And he thought he was being so smart, how he's going to cover this stuff up. But he did a really bad job. So he's not coming out of prison anytime soon, hopefully for a really, really long time. But what an idiot. And this is where sometimes when people do, spur of the moment crimes, they really, they have only so much time to figure out how to cover things up. These aren't clever, Hollywood psychopaths who plan some brilliant thing. And even when they do, look what happened with the guy got a huge team together to break into the house. And even that they screwed up because the video was able to follow them in so many places. And the van was noted, and then the van was found at the store, and they were able to eventually put it all together. But it's very few times do people understand how hard it is to cover up a crime like that. Now, what is easy to not get caught for is super stranger crimes. That's why serial killers are hard to catch, because they just jump out and kill somebody and they're not related. Nobody has any idea who they are. And as long as they're not on video, they're good to go. And most homes don't have really good video, especially in the bedroom. I mean, nobody likes video in the bedroom, right? And this family didn't have video in the bedroom either. So they couldn't actually see the murder go down. They just knew it happened in the bedroom. But let's say you're being raped and murdered in your bedroom. You might have a figure of a guy coming into your house in the darkness, and then he murders you in the bedroom, and then this figure goes out. You might have a time frame, but you might not have more than that, because you don't have that much information. So so a lot of times it's easy to get away with things when there's no connection. But when you have a connection of some sort, or the video or something else going on, then you can start tracking things. And so the last one I'm going to do here, just because I thought it was I forgot about this one. And let's see, where is it? This is just I call it a fun one, but it wasn't fun for the poor schmuck. This is this little couple here. This is Jordan Graham. He's a nice guy. He met this girl in church. So you got to sometimes watch out. We always think that, people are going to church, that they're good-hearted, caring people. And for the most part they are. But then you get those who use the church as a cover for their problems and to be liked, because a lot of times when you go, if you have issues, if you're like psychopathic or severely narcissistic or whatever, the people of the church want to give you a chance. They want to show you love. They want to show you, they don't want to judge you. They just, they want to talk, be a family to you. And so that's how come sometimes these kind of people get into the church. Anyway, this girl got into the church. It was a Faith Baptist church, and she was, her name is, wait a minute, let me get this straight. Oh, sorry. Jordy, wait a minute. Okay, let me get this straight. Cody, they got this wrong here. They said testimony evidence from Jordan Graham's, murder trial. I was going to say Jordan is the woman. Let me go back here because that was not correct. Jordan Graham is the woman who was on trial for murder of her husband, Cody Lee Johnson. She's 21, he's 25. Okay, so they had been married 8 days earlier, and everyone was asking how married life was treating them. And Johnson, he's like, everything's wonderful, right? And apparently she did not think so. She was having issues. So anyway, he ended up disappearing, okay? Disappearing one night, only 8 days into their relationship. Now, let's see if I'm going to skip the actual trial part. I want to go back to where he went missing. Okay. Now, hold on a second. It's a long story here, and I want to find the part. All right, here we go. On July 8th, Johnson didn't show up for work. The absence shocked his supervisor, and he said he's never late for work. And so they sent a text message, and they didn't get a response. All right. So meanwhile, Graham, the wife, had been telling people a version of this story. You see, she said that the couple had gotten into a fight, and then he left with car buddies from Washington. Now, he was found in Glacier Park, and is that Wyoming? Anyway, he had some car buddies. The story made little sense to the supervisor, and was even more confusing when he heard another version of it. from someone else. Someone who said that she actually tracked the mysterious car to the hungry horse before losing track of it. Okay, so she's telling two different stories. So the first clue, folks, is if you're going to kill somebody off, you want your story to be the same story because the truth doesn't change, and it was changing with her. So anyway, suspicious of what happened, his friend Fredrickson went to Johnson and Graham's house. Nobody was home, and the door was unlocked. He looked around and couldn't find anything. He contacted the police department. He also called every hospital, asking if Johnson had been involved in an accident. Meanwhile, Graham and her friends were driving around the area of Hungry Horse Dam. Okay, the wife's behavior didn't match the situation. She was giggling and texting. She didn't seem to be that interested in looking or helping. All right, so eventually, let's see. So there were lots of these inconsistencies. Now, early the following morning, someone at Graham's parents' house logged onto an email account and sent Graham a message. The message was, "My name is Tony. There is no bother looking for Cody anymore. He is gone. I saw your post on Twitter, and I thought I would email you. He had come with some buddies and met up with me on Sunday night in Columbia Falls. He was saying he needed to be with his buddies for a bit and take them for a joyride. 3 of the guys came back saying they'd gone for a ride in the woods somewhere, and Cody got out of the car and went for a hike, and they are positive he fell and he is dead. I don't know who the guys were, but they took off. So call off the missing persons report. Cody is gone for sure. This guy named Tony." Okay, so anyway, the police asked her if she knew a Tony, and she didn't know this Tony. Well, it turned out that the actual email account was made up, and it came from her, I think it was her parents' home. So, if you're going to make a fake email account, you can't do it from your parents' house, because you get caught. Okay, so anyway, then she, let's see. Okay, so now she's going to go search for her husband, right? The missing husband. So, let me point out here. Tony S. email address. They later discovered the account was created at an IP address linked to Graham's parents' computer. It was created, after the guy went missing. Okay, late that afternoon, Graham and her friends and family headed for Glacier Park, right? That evening, they stopped at the Loop. Graham got out of the car and wandered the parking lot before walking to a wall that she and Johnson had passed a few days earlier. Okay, so she had this feeling. She looked down this ravine, right? And into this across this wall. And she was very interested in that spot. And they're like, "Why are you interested in that spot?" And she said, "I just have a feeling." I bet she did. After a few minutes of looking from different angles, Graham stopped and she spotted something. Her brother Michael quickly joined her and looked down the ravine, and 200 feet below was Johnson's body lying down in the water. The brother collapsed and began to cry. Graham calmly walked away from the ledge. Okay. So now they found the guy, and they thought it was odd she found the body. And this is my favorite statement of this whole thing. They asked her how she could find the body there. How would she know? And she said, "Well, it was a place that my husband wanted to see before he died." Well, I guess he did see it, didn't he? Not. He did see it before he died, that's for sure. Anyway, so meanwhile, back at her house, they found that she had already thrown out all the love letters, teddy bears, Valentines, and part of her wedding dress. She'd gotten rid of everything. She apparently didn't care about her husband being dead and gone. So, at any rate, she eventually does. They figured out, something's wrong with all her stories. So she then says, this is her next claim, that let me go back now to the final story that she told in court. She said that, let's see, where was it? That they're saying, she said then, okay, we were at this place and we had this argument, and he got close to me, and I gave him a little push, not realizing there was a ledge, and he went over it. So, but at any rate, she did a lot of stupid things. One is tell a lot of stupid stories. Secondly, she made up an email account that could be traced back to her family's place. That then was absolute evidence that she was creating stories to try to get the suspicion off of her. And then, of course, she knew where his body was. So all these things aren't very clever. Getting rid of his getting rid of all the things, that are should be very sentimental to you. You chuck them out the day afterwards, like, yeah, I'm getting rid of this. All these things brought suspicion upon her. So if she was trying to get suspicion away from her, she did a really shabby job of it. So she would probably have been better off with the original story where she pushed him and fell off a cliff. If she had gone there to begin with and they'd been walking and he slipped and fell, she wouldn't even have to say she pushed him. We were taking a walk and I didn't, he's the hiking dude, and I don't do this kind of stuff. And we were walking. I didn't realize how close that he was to the edge of that. And all of a sudden, I just saw him go over. They would never have been able to prove that she killed him. But with all her suspicious behavior, her stupidity was what did her in. I just thought, it was like, really, you didn't know when to shut up. Jordan Graham is the psycho wife. Oh, she was really nuts. That guy seemed to really be head over heels, and didn't realize what he was getting into. It's a sad thing, and I think there are some people who warned him, but he didn't see it because, he thought he had found her, the girl. She was cold-blooded. Yeah, she was cold-blooded. She was a concerning person. Lisa says, this 8-day marriage case ruins my theory that the best way to kill your husband is to push them off a cliff if you don't want to get caught. Well, yes and no. So I give advice to how to kill somebody you want to get rid of. But the trick to it all is not to be in a rush. It's like if you're going to get a life insurance policy out on somebody, you just don't want to kill them 72 hours later. You don't, because that's bad news. You want to be patient. Hold on a second. I thought I felt my cat under my feet. It's supposed to be outside. Anyway, you want to have patience. You want to put on a show of how everything is going really well and how excited you are about certain things. And then, darn it, they fall off a cliff. And then you're horrified. And if a woman can get away with saying she stabbed her husband because he pushed her head on a counter and she stabbed him, and she can get away with that, don't you think that most of the time if you fall off a cliff and there's not been evidence of a bad relationship prior to that, or just buying an insurance policy, the jury's going to go, well, it could have happened. And even I as a professional juror, if I were, I would have a trouble with that too. I'd be saying, people do fall. They do stupid things. He was trying to take a picture. He was doing a selfie. How many people fall off the cliff doing selfies? Happens all the time. So he was doing a selfie and he stepped back and he was suddenly just gone. And then you feel so bad for that, that poor woman, they'd only been married a year and she's already lost her husband. It's just horrifying, and somebody could say, well, I think she killed him. And they go, come on now. He's probably just doing the selfie like she said. And his phone was found at the bottom of the cliff, You betcha it was. So the simpler a crime is, the harder it is to prove. The more you add to it, the more you decorate it, shall we say, the more chances are that things aren't going to match. Timing is not going to match. The evidence isn't going to match. People are going to get suspicious. So, keep it simple, stupid. But these people keep it stupid and they're simple. So, yeah. I don't know if there's anything. Yeah, I don't know if that's really true, Heidi. I stay away from these claims that people make. I just do. I don't know if it has anything to do with religion. I think the woman has psychopathy. And so psychopaths can choose religion to explain away things that they don't want to deal with. So I try to stay away from all of that stuff because a lot of that is people's opinions. So-and-so, she was this way, and some of it comes before, some of it comes after. And this is the kind of stuff it's more gossipy stuff. And I understand where it's interesting, but that's the kind of stuff I stay away from because it serves no point, really. It doesn't. And people have viewpoints of other people's viewpoints, and especially when it comes to religion, people get so snarky about religion these days that I don't go there because still people's behavior is their behavior, and what they believe and what they don't believe is not the reason for what they do necessarily. They can use it, but it isn't necessarily the reason for what they do. So I say, there's a good point. There are a lot of people who don't want to sleep with a partner, but they don't push them off a cliff. That is true. This is her thoughts were distorted. Well, if she's psychopathic, yes, her thoughts are distorted. So she apparently didn't have a lot of love in her heart for this guy. It may be that he just wasn't her thing. So what happens is a lot of times the people they'll get themselves into relationships which they don't really want to be in because it's one-sided. Especially a lot of psychopaths or certain people with certain issues, they don't have that feeling of love. So maybe she thought something would be useful out of this relationship, and then once she was in it, she didn't like it. A lot of people do have that problem, like point out. So usually the way to get out of it is annulment, divorce, or whatever, but not murder. Same thing with a guy who gets a girl pregnant and then he kills her, 8 months pregnant, and he makes sure she ends up dead so he doesn't have to deal with the relationship anymore. Now, he may have a problem with relationships, but he was still in a relationship. And so it's, so this kind of thinking is distorted, but the distortion is, I don't want to do something that I have to struggle with, or if I can get out of it, I want to get out of it. And most of us accept our own responsibility for why we're in that situation. Dude, if you got a girl pregnant, it's because you had sex with her, first of all. Secondly, that you did not use proper protection. So you had two reasons there that you jumped over before she got pregnant. So you are responsible for that situation. Likewise, females, if you end up pregnant, there is a reason you end up pregnant. So everybody has responsibilities, and healthy people accept their responsibilities and their failures and say, okay, I wasn't thinking that night. I should have used protection, but I got the hots and just did it anyway. And I thought, what an idiot. And then I turned out pregnant, or she turned out pregnant. It's my fault. And therefore I have to step up to the plate, because we all make mistakes that we have to deal with. Except psychopaths don't think that way. They're like, I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't think I should have to. I think I should just get rid of the problem. And they do. She probably hated this marriage and didn't like this guy that much. She got rid of the problem. She probably thought she would get away with it, because a lot of psychopathy is grandiose thinking that you're just gonna solve the problem and you're gonna walk away and nothing's ever gonna come after you. And it doesn't work that way. So, although sometimes it does. So, well, I guess he died. Pushed her husband out a window on the 30th floor. That would do it. The 30th floor is usually something you don't survive from. Yeah. Again, she said something about religion and sex. Again, saying something about it isn't necessarily that they believe that. It may be that she didn't like sex with him. Who knows? Maybe she actually had sex before with somebody else and he was a great lay. Did I say that? Yeah. Okay. But he did. He was great, but then I got this guy, dang. Who knows what the issue is? And say, when somebody says something, we can't spend a whole lot of time being obsessed about the fact that they said it. Okay. It's oftentimes just what they're spinning. Okay. So I look at physical evidence and say, we don't need to even waste our time with it, because it doesn't really matter. It just doesn't. So Benny's here from football. Well, he says, how was football? You were playing football in the dark, weren't you? Wasn't it? Or is it still light? Okay. You started playing at 10 o'clock at night because you're in Denmark. So what were you playing? Were you on a lit field or something? Lighted field, lit field. How is that said? I'm not sure. Okay. And I'm assuming, since you say football, you mean soccer, because I'm in the U.S. and you know how we say soccer and you say football. So I'm sure you weren't playing American football. So how was it? Yeah, still really? Oh, that's right. You're in Denmark. What am I thinking, Benny? It's June. Of course, it's still light out. I forgot about that. And for you guys who don't know, I did live in Denmark for 6 months from January through June. So I completely blanked that we're talking about. Yeah. The sun is still up at that time of night. That's correct. Unfortunately, I was there mostly in the winter and it was really dark and the sun was mostly down and was only around from 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon for most of my stay in Denmark. So yeah. So I wish I was there in the summer, Benny. I should have come in the summer and just enjoyed. I mean, I went to Tivoli, like when the last moments of my time in Denmark, I went to Tivoli when the sun was actually, yes, up. And I got the moment of like, oh, this is great fun. Go out drinking all night long and then get stuck because the trains aren't going back until 5 in the morning. So you have to stay awake for another, like from 2 to 3 to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then you stagger on the train and go home and everybody's like falling asleep. And I remember that. but the sun was up, because the sun was up most of the time. So yeah. So I hope you enjoyed yourself, Benny. That's really cool. So anyway, I think those are my topics for tonight. Oh, look, my sister said yum. Where did she get? I'm looking at her. Remember I said my sister's ordering Indian food? I wonder if she ordered all the things I told her to order. I'm not sure what that is. I'm looking at the pictures now. Did she get the things I told her? What? I'm not sure she did. But, oh. Pat, you come visit me and I will fill something very fine in that squared glass of your. Oh, okay. My squared glass from Christine. Yes. And when it says, isn't that cool? It says profiling of Pat Brown. Yes. Put something nice in there. Oh, maybe. Okay. I'm going to end the show just for you, Benny. I'm going to tell you a horrible story so I can humiliate myself in public. But anyway, so I was over there when I was 23 and I went out with this guy. I don't remember who the hell he was. I went out with him and went to some of his friends' house. And that was the first time I ever had akavit. I think or schnapp. No, it was akavit, wasn't it? Yeah, akavit. And there was the little shot glass of akavit, and there was my beer. And I'd never actually had anything that strong in my life because I wasn't a drinker, but I was trying to be friendly and social. So I didn't realize that if you drank the akavit that it would refill it. So I drank the akavit and the beer and the akavit and the beer and the akavit and the beer. And we were watching football on the television. And he said, do you understand football? And I said, yes, it's an interesting game. And he said, you're drunk. And I said, no. And then I remember going down a hallway and hitting all the sides of the hallway and sleeping on a couch. So that was a very akavit. Yes, akavit. Yeah. I remember that night. And I think after that, I was very cautious about ever drinking too much of that stuff again because it was quite humiliating experience. I was 23 and I was going away to college in Copenhagen or Copenhagen, however you want to say it. And he was one of the first Danes I had met. So I suckered into, getting along with everybody. So, yeah, it's one of my good memories from Denmark. Yes, it was. Not really. I had much better memories than that. So now Benny's just laughing at me. So you're gonna make me take akavit if I come back. I'll come back and visit again. You'll go, I know it. I know it'll work on you. I'm a little smarter now. A little older, a little smarter. So, oh goodness. So anyway, that's going to be it for the hangout tonight. And Pat Brown, wild woman. And there's no videos or photos from that day. So unless I said something, no one would ever know it. So, but since they're my younger years, I can let a few little secrets go. And so this is what my sister says. So she's like, well, I'm going to sleep. I hear things. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that about you. And I'm like, dang, I let that out. Yeah. Maybe it was supposed not to be, the family's not supposed to know. And of course, now my children know because now it's here forever. My grandchild will know. But most of the shows they don't watch anyway because it's just their mom. So Maybe they'll never come across it. Okay, so my next show is going to be this Sunday. It's going to be at 3 p.m. And this is true. And actually, Heidi says, Heidi was saying that she loves Indian food. Yes, I love Indian food, but I love it better in India or when my friends make it because it's much more real. And Lisa says she likes it too. Great Indian food in the UK and Pakistani food too. And also, it's just an interesting difference also in the Indian food in the UK than in the US. I actually think it's better in the UK. That's my personal opinion. So I have not decided what I'm going to do for Sunday yet. I guess I should decide that as soon as I finish this show. But so I will decide that. Anyway, so that's it. That's the show for today. I'm glad you were here. I had a great crowd as usual. And again, if you're new to this channel and you'd like to join in with these wonderful people, then click on Patreon. It's like $5 a month. It supports the channel and it brings you into our great community. So, thank you very much, Lisa. Informative. I try to be informative. I try to make it. Bye, Annie. Bye, Beth. I try to have these shows have a purpose other than just telling a story. I'm not a true crime channel that tells just creepy stories. Although they have their place, I'm not one of those. I like to teach, and that's what I am. A teaching channel with a little bit of, hopefully a little bit of humor, so it's not torture. You're welcome, Heidi. Bye, Lisa. So yes, so join me on Sunday. If you're here today, join me on Sunday and support the channel. Just become a subscriber. If nothing else, become a subscriber, please, because that does make a difference. I put so many pictures on this show. I just see the side. There's a sidebar here, and you have to scroll through everything. And I'm scrolling away. And now I have a problem of. So I have to go back here. See, there's lots of things you have to do when you do this, which is why people like to edit their shows so they don't look like idiots. But I'm kind of used to looking like an idiot, so I'm good. So anyway, hope I see you on Sunday. Bye.